Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers pregame presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me tonight, live and in living color, it is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor. What's going on tonight, Chuck?
Ready for another riveting game of Flyers hockey.
You know what? After 20 minutes, if somebody watched the first period last night and then was like, F this, I'm going to bed, they would think that that is a sarcastic comment. Riveting game of Flyers hockey.
No, the final 40 minutes of gameplay, very, very fun to watch.
That game turned around. I'm sitting there, me and Kelly watching the game. You know, I'm just trying to think of stuff for post-game, and I'm like, guess what, Hanks? We're doing not game stuff. We are going to talk about whatever else because this is pointless. And then suddenly they just woke the hell up. You mentioned in your post game, they didn't say it was definitely the big fire ups, but clearly some things were said after that first period. This is just plain not acceptable.
Yeah.
Yes, the Florida Panthers, worlds ahead of where the Flyers are. And Florida's kind of been an up and down team this year. We know they're excellent. They won the East 2 years in a row. They're defending champs.
Well, you've mentioned it about the Avalanche or another team where the Tampa Bay Lightning were a big team where, hey, they know they can get it done in the playoffs. The regular season is just the prologue to before it actually really starts to matter.
We can beat anyone on any night.
Yeah.
But we're not going to have it every single night.
Yeah.
And that's, why would you?
Let's just win our 50 games and then go to the playoffs.
You mentioned the two Florida teams. Look at what they have done in their historic regular seasons recently.
Yeah.
And then bombed out in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then they come back, let's just take it down to an 8 or 9 instead of an 11. And then they win the Stanley Cup. That's kind of the way it goes. But the Flyers were awesome in the second. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't as if Florida didn't show up. They absolutely destroyed them in the first period. And the Flyers came back. And now, Charlie, they are the Philadelphia Flyers are at their first win streak of the new year. Their first win streak since, November 7th to the 30th. They went 8-2-2 with 2 winning streaks of 3 games. They haven't had one since. They came close on December 10th and 12th. They won 2 straight, and now they have won their last 2 games. They're looking for their 3rd straight. It's been tough since the end of November for this team, really stringing anything together.
It really has been.
Obviously, the goaltending, a huge part of that. We'll get into it. This is their 8th back-to-back of the year. They're 1-6-0. Well, in a back-to-back, what has to happen? You have to play all your goalies. And it hasn't gone all that well on the back end of back-to-backs for the Flyers. But perhaps tonight they will get it going.
This is a tough one, though. Number one, Columbus, while I don't think they are a very good true talent team, they are playing well at the moment. They've won 4 straight. They kind of have that, which I think we talked about it before the season, about how I'm kind of rooting for Columbus.
Of course.
Given everything that they went through at the end of the offseason with the Gaudreau tragedy, for them to kind of rally as a group, because I'm sure that's been part of it. Let's do it for Johnny. And
yeah, of course.
How could you not want to see them overachieve and exceed expectations? They're playing pretty well, but in addition to that, the Flyers played last night. They traveled. Now, Columbus isn't super far, but it's still travel. Travel stinks. It's exhausting. Columbus did not play last night, did not play Sunday. So they've had 2 days between games. They will be the more rested team, to be sure, especially given the fact that the Flyers, they had to have emptied the tank a bit over those final 40 minutes, given the fact they had to make up for the fact that they barely showed up in the first 20.
Florida, a super physical team. Flyers needed every ounce of what they had to make that a game and then to, of course, win it. So we'll see how that goes tonight. This season, back-to-backs have been a real challenge for this team, so we'll see.
But you're right that this is an opportunity for them to get a Lou Brown winning streak.
2 in a row is 2 in a row.
Right.
3 games is a winning streak.
It has happened
before. It has happened before, but not in like over a month. So we'll see. We'll see if they are able to win their third game in a row.
For those who don't get the reference, watch the first Major League. Great movie.
If anyone doesn't know, we're referencing Major League at this point. And hey, Kelly's in the Kelly in the chat. What's going on, Hanks?
We have some young viewers. Perhaps they are not aware of the greatness that is the first Major League. Even the second one.
Who are your parents?
Just saying, great movies.
I go back and watch some of this stuff. I'm like, what were my parents thinking? I was a child.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, let's take a look at tonight's lineup. And, of course, Ivan Fedotov will be in. We'll talk about the goalies in a minute. That appears to be the only change.
Yes.
Which means Joel Farabee remains out. Listen, after a 6-0 win and like the best game in years for the Flyers, quite honestly, they were never going to change up the lineup. And then last night, I wouldn't say, the final 40, sure, but you go and beat the Stanley Cup champs. You're probably not going to change the lineup. We read the Torts quotes yesterday. You had them on Twitter a couple days ago. This isn't punitive. I just need him playing better. And Kelly and I talked. They've gone through every possible step with Joel Farabee. They moved him up to the top line for a bit. He was getting some chances, but not scoring. Eventually, play dipped. Suddenly, he and Sean Couturier find themselves on the 4th line. What happens when you're a 4th-line left winger on a team out of the playoffs? Sometimes you don't play.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Joel Farabee is now. But again, like the coach is saying, I just need him to play better. They put him on that top line. He's been getting power play time. They put him on the PK just to see if maybe he could give them, he historically scores pretty well in the rush. Let's put him with Scott Lawton. He gets a ton of penalty kill assists. It's just another thing for him to focus on, maybe get out of his own head. None of it has worked. So Joel Farabee remains out. How long do you expect this to last?
They're playing so many games during this stretch. We talked about it, me and you, before the show.
Right before.
This is the second straight week where they're playing 4 games. That's a pretty crazy schedule. And then the following week, they play 3 games. He never really slows down. So at some point, either somebody's going to get hurt or somebody's going to dip because they're a little tired, because they're getting run into the ground by the schedule. John Tortorella talked about it today before the game. I believe he talked to the media about an hour and a half ago. And he said, it's a brutal schedule, and he's trying to space out the ice times, have everybody get double digits on the forward core so that nobody gets too tired. But you would have to think that when you have a guy like Joel Farabee, who, look, certainly not living up to preseason expectations, particularly from a goal scoring and point production standpoint, that's undeniable. But he's not your average healthy scratch.
Yeah.
He's not a guy where, he's not a Lixell. And Lixell, I think, over his last couple games has been pretty good. But Lixell is not an established NHLer. He's not a guy that you're particularly wedded to. Joel Farabee, even though he's not reaching the heights that we hope for him this year, he's still very clearly an NHL caliber player, and you don't usually leave those guys out of the lineup for really long periods of time when the schedule is this dense and this compacted. So he's not playing tonight, it doesn't appear. I could easily see him coming back in 2 nights, especially if they don't win this game, which, as we noted, given the schedule complications, this is going to be a tough one for them to win.
And Columbus has been good.
Good.
I just see Jackie Spiegel just like 30 seconds ago tweeted the lines. We have, no changes.
No changes.
It's going to be Frost. Like Frost, you have that offensive upside. Maybe he's the best match with Michkov. I think Couturier so far has been the best match with Michkov just because maybe he can't do everything he used to be able to do. And
they think the game
They
well.
at least are smart and he knows where to be.
Yeah.
Like Misha has the puck. Let me get my ass in the middle of the ice. Little things like that.
Not even that. It's also Michkov, and they're obviously trying to have him play with a little bit more structure, but he is going to freelance a lot. And Couturier probably is one of the few guys in this team who has the overall spatial awareness to notice that and then know how to at least cover for him a bit. That probably helps. Morgan Frost, look, he's gotten better defensively as he's moved into his mid-20s. He's never going to be Sean Couturier.
No.
So perhaps that's part of the reason why he seems to work better with Couturier. The other reason why it's been tough, I think, with Frost, and in no way, shape, or form am I absolving Morgan Frost for the poor start he had of the season. The one guy who Frost has consistently shown chemistry with over the past few seasons is Owen Tippett. And Owen Tippett has struggled to develop chemistry with Matvei Michkov.
Yeah.
So
we saw it for a little bit.
And then it died off again. Point being here is that if you want to have the Frost-Tippett connection, I don't think Michkov can be the other guy on that line. I don't think that trio works. And what this line allows them to do is it allows them to bring back the Frost-Tippett chemistry without Michkov kind of I hate to say messing it up, but I just don't think it fits.
No, there's just not yes, Frost has really developed as just in terms of his willingness to play within the structure or his understanding. I don't know if he ever wasn't willing, but his just ability to do it, his understanding of it. But you have Tippett, who's never going to, again, be Mark Stone out there. And then Mish. It's like, does anyone really know what they're supposed to be doing right now?
Right.
Like that's a question with this line, and it maximizes your biggest offensive threats outside of Mish, which are Tippett and Konechny. You need those guys driving offense. It sets them up. Forster, Cates, Brink stays together.
Shocker.
We've had a little bit of a conversation. Now, they've been good. Obviously, Brink struggled to score a little, but overall, he's played pretty well, even without the goals. In order to maximize Michkov, which I know that isn't the coach's goal, but for a team that doesn't score that much, putting him
They've been scoring more.
They've been scoring more. It comes and goes.
Sure.
I just feel like maybe having a dude who does have that nose for the net with these other two guys who are play drivers, they're scoring now, but they're going to be in the offensive zone. Maybe that would give that line a little more punch, and then you'd have two offensive lines rolling, but it's not as if Forster, Cates, Brink has been struggling at all. I just wanted to know your thoughts on maybe mixing that up a little bit.
Torts has brought up, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 days ago. It was either late last week or early this week. He brought up the possibility of breaking up that line. He said he's thought about it. There have been times where he's come close, and then he ultimately sticks with them because they have been so effective. Not just in terms of Cates getting going, but if you look at their underlying 5-on-5 metrics, they've been one of the most effective lines in the NHL this year in terms of expected goal differential, in terms of shot on goal differential, in terms of just straight up goal differential. They've been top 20 in the league. It's a tough line to break up, even though breaking them up would give them more flexibility in terms of building the rest of the lines. Personally, I want to see them stick with it. But at some point, you are going to have to break them up, if only because I want to see if Noah Cates can carry this over with different line mates. Sometimes a line just clicks, and you get Ville Leno is just awesome with Danny Briere and Scott Hartnell. And then the minute he leaves the team, he's not an NHL top 9 forward, and he's on one of the worst contracts in hockey.
And you're goals.
And you're like, maybe he wasn't ever that great. It was just he was on the perfect line for him. At some point, and I'm not saying rush into it, but at some point, I'm going to want to see if Noah Cates can do this with Michkov. Give them a shot. And maybe he can do what he's doing now, but even better.
And part of the reason I've thought about it is also, Farabee's going to draw back in, and I assume he's going to play most of the games for the rest of the season.
Think, right?
It's Torts, but yeah, probably. But we've seen, whether it's to trade him or to see if you can salvage him here, they need Farabee to just be better than the guy who has 11 goals in his last 76 games. He has, in the past, had some chemistry with Bobby Brink. You put Coots out there, who's a smart player, who can win you some faceoffs in the offensive zone. Maybe you can get something going. Now, all of a sudden, you have 3 lines. And I know that this team is not good, but the holy sticks.
They're not bad. I wouldn't say they're a team that, if they were getting great goaltending, they would be one of the best teams in hockey. But I do believe if they were getting league average goaltending, they would be in a playoff spot right now.
In all likelihood, I do think some of the expected goal numbers don't quite match up with they outshoot and outchance their opponents a lot. They do spend a ton of time in the defensive zone, though, even if they're not getting the shots off. Yeah. But that's their strategy, and it works for them a lot.
Yeah, they collapse the middle. And the one thing that probably does mess with the expected goal numbers is that really over the last, 2.5 months or so, once they started to really tighten up defensively, they don't give up a lot of shots. But it seems like when they do, they tend to be big breakdowns.
Yeah, it's a major. And listen, that's going to happen, especially for a team that's Yeah, man, we need to push for offense. And like so many of their chances are breakaways, odd man rushes.
Or even just breakdowns. Like, I'm thinking back to the goals that were scored, not in the Anaheim game, but the Dallas game, where they have those 2 goals off the rush, but not really an odd man rush. It was just that they were coming into the zone with speed in transition, and the Flyers' defensive structure just could not handle the motion and the pace that Dallas was playing with. Those are the times when you see some breakdowns.
And like I think part of that is the zone defense they play. Like
probably part of it.
Yeah, man, guys just don't always know what to do. Yeah. Sometimes there's a little confusion.
Got to think really fast.
All right, before we get to the goalie talk, I want to tell you about our friends at Rothman Orthopedics. If you've got aching joints, if you've got cramping hands, if your back's out of whack, Rothman's got you. At Rothman Orthopedics, they're practicing specialized care, and it's been their passion for over 50 years. Their mission, it's high-quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research leading to new treatments and better outcomes, because each Rothman doc is laser-focused on their specialty. Hip, knee, spine, you name it, they have a team for each body part right in your backyard, so you can get back to your specialty, whether it's drain and jump shots, whether it's going to the net hard, whatever it might be. They're Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today. Let's talk about Ivan Fedotov, Charlie. I guess. Like, he is the nominal second-string goalie right now. It's gone back and forth. Yeah. They've decided he needs to sit for a month at one point and then gone, Kolosov stinks too. Well, I guess it's back to you, Ivan. Since returning from that month-long benching, he played the home and home with the Maple Leafs. He gave up 6 goals on 42 shots, got an .857 save percentage, 12 starts in the season, .874. He's 4-5-2 with a .340 goals against. What the hell should they do? Like, my idea of just kind of playing all 3, everyone gets 1. We go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 down the line and see how it goes in a month or 2. I understand why they didn't do it, especially the schedule spot they were in. Like, you had to beat Anaheim. It was the point of the season. Like, that's the biggest game. Yeah. It's like an Eagles-Cowboys game. I need you to win one, man. I need you to win this game. So you play your best goalie. Back-to-back games, they always think, and numbers show that, they're 1-6 in this back end. Everyone says you have the best chance to win the first one, so play your best goalie. I don't know if that's especially true because it was Florida and then Columbus, but
hey, they beat them.
It worked.
They beat them.
It worked. So now you go to Columbus, a division rival who has been playing pretty well, but you have a goalie who he had a little run this season. There was a time where he looked pretty good. There have been games where it's, he's better than his numbers, but he's got an .874 season save percentage.
Yeah, but Bill, what do you want them to do? Like,
I know.
Like, I know what you're setting me up to say, but the real answer is, what do you want them to do? They certainly can't play Ersson again, given the fact that he keeps getting hurt. So you're not going to play a goalie who's shown signs of being injury prone this season back-to-back games. That would be asinine. That would be quite possibly the dumbest thing they could do. So you're stuck with either playing Ivan Fedotov or Alexei Kolosov. The only other thing you could do is you could try to trade for a guy, but then it gets into like, why are we doing it? My view about the idea of like going out and getting an upgrade, I'm only even remotely interested in doing that if Ersson were to get hurt again. Because I do worry a bit about, like, what if Ersson re-aggravates his injury and is out for 2 months? I'm worried that the team will only be able to continue to play solid hockey for like 2-3 weeks in front of these goalies before they just give up. Because it's just like, well, guess we're playing shinny hockey. We're playing pond hockey because the goalies can't stop a beach ball.
Yeah.
Then I would be like, yeah, maybe you go out and trade for somebody who can at least deliver passable goaltending. But as long as Ersson is healthy and as long as he can take the majority of the starts the rest of the way, I'm willing to just hang around with Fedotov and Kolosov as the backups. That's fine.
I know
they're not going to be good. Probably,
I know I'm disheartened by it, but at the same time, I don't even know if Ersson should get a majority of the starts because, like, what happened last year, and that was an extreme usage, but we saw his play just absolutely implode last year when he was being leaned on. And this year, he's been hurt 3 times. I have seen enough to believe that he is not a starter. Like
that's what it comes down to. Not this year.
I just don't think his body can handle it.
This is previous 2 years, he really didn't get hurt. Last year,
he just stunk.
Last year, I don't think that was. I think if anything, that was more of a mental exhaustion than physical exhaussion. He never got injured.
No,
he didn't play as well.
He didn't get injured,
but it was also an insane workload. Even for a starter, that was insane.
Given the workload now from the second half of last year through the first half of this season, whether it's mentally or physically, it has gone very poorly for him.
Okay, so
I think you should use him in a limited capacity and see if he's something else.
So what do you want them to do?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
You really want them to just do 33%, 33%, 33%?
Yeah.
They're never going to do that.
I don't see why.
I would have to assume it is because John Tortorella and Kim Dillaball have talked about it, and Tortorella has been told by the goalie expert that that's dumb and goalies will hate it.
You know what? I can't imagine goalies like giving up 6 goals a game either.
I mean, no. I personally don't like watching that.
The goalies will hate it. Well, then one of the goalies should have better than an .870 save percentage. I'm not asking for the world here. I'm asking to be a little below average.
I'm just saying I don't think you're going to get that. There's no way they are ever going to do a 3-man goalie rotation. I just don't see it.
I understand, but the fact that they've kept 3 around this long, it just doesn't make sense to me. Well, then do something that makes sense. They shouldn't trade for a goalie. If they wanted to do that, they should have done that, let's say, January 14th in the last 358 days. If they wanted to trade for a goalie and fix the problem, why not just give everyone an equal opportunity and see if by 4 nations you're still in it? And if that's the case, all right, maybe we can go with one of these guys, but
for whatever reason, John Tortorella and Kim Dillaball have decided that their goalie situation is going to be a 1-2. It's not going to be a 1-2-3. And it's hard for me to be too critical of the fact that they're not willing to do that, given the fact that no one in recent hockey history has ever even tried that.
You just wrote an article where no team in recent hockey history has finished a season with a save percentage as bad as the Flyers have. Maybe it's time to do something outside the box.
Okay.
That's just... Listen, I'm not saying it's going to work. It's probably not. But it's not. It's not because of the rotation. It's because none of these guys are very good.
And I also, another thing I disagree with you on is that, like you said, I don't even want Sam Ersson getting the majority of starts. And then you said, well, look what happens when he gets overworked. I think there's a middle ground between getting the majority of the starts and getting all of the starts. When I say majority, that's anything over 50%. So if there's 38, 37 games left in the year.
Something like that. This is 45, I think.
I would be fine if he got somewhere between 20 and 22. I'm not saying give him every start by any means, but I want him to get more than half of the starts. I think that's reasonable.
It's definitely reasonable. And he has shown us in the past an ability to thrive in other situations. Not like he's just been bad as the Flyers goalie. But I just don't see... If that's not what he's going to be, a guy who plays 45, 50 games for you, and I think it's pretty clear he's not, let's figure something else out. Maybe this is what he is. What if he's just a tandem or backup goalie? Well, then let's use him in that role and then know that that's the hole we have to fill. We either need a starter or a guy as good or a little better than him. We're using him in a role that he ultimately isn't going to fill.
And I guess I'm not yet ready to say that with certainty.
All right, before we go any further, it's time for the bets. This pregame pick segment is brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Just one tonight, Charlie, and we're riding a hot hand here. Give me that Noah Cates over half a point at plus 140. His line has been rolling. He had a couple of games there without a point and comes back with 2 huge goals last night.
You're riding the wave.
He's been the best player on this team.
You're riding the wave.
Travis Konechny has been Travis Konechny all year. He's kind of been hot and cold in terms of game-to-game production. Listen, you can't ask for 4 assists every game. But he's had some big games, some 2-goal games, and then 2 or 3 off every now and then. But he's their best player. Behind him, Noah Cates is making a real case to be considered for some end-of-season Flyers awards, maybe the Travis Sanheim.
Improved. Yeah, that seems
the Travis
obvious
Sanheim
right now.
Memorial Award.
Yeah.
He's still alive. I know.
We call it the Travis Sanheim Legacy Award.
Legacy Award. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Noah Cates, he's right. I mean, hard to argue with what he's been doing. We've spent a lot of time talking about Noah Cates over the last couple weeks, and deservedly so. So let's take him at over half a point. All right, only a few minutes left in the show. I want to talk a little about these Columbus Blue Jackets because, as you mentioned earlier, it is a really freaking cool story.
It's a cool story, yeah.
And you just look at, John Tortorella talking about, like, when they drafted so many of these guys that are starting to come around, like when he was in Columbus.
Right.
And now you're seeing it. When he got to Philly, he talked about Sanheim and Cam York really even into last camp. Like, I want these guys to be rovers. And that's how he utilized Werenski and Seth Jones before they traded him.
Right.
And now Werenski, you see this guy's scoring numbers.
He's leading the team in points.
He is leading the team in scoring. He's well over a point a game, 48 points in 43 games. He's at 26 and a half minutes a game. Like, he's been sick for them. He's been really, really good. And almost to the point of, hey, he's not going to win the Hart Trophy, but this team makes the playoffs. He's going to get some down ballot love.
Well, I mean, I don't think he would win the Hart Trophy, but I read an interesting thing on Daily Faceoff today about the idea of who are the favorites for the Norris right now. And the three guys that you've heard, Cale Makar, obviously, Quinn Hughes won it last year,
of course,
and then Zach Werenski. And honestly, if Columbus makes the playoffs, and in the end, I don't think they will, but if they did, yeah, he's getting 26 minutes a night for a team that's dramatically overachieving, and he's leading them in points. Yeah, I don't know if that gets him a Hart, but it might win him a Norris.
I absolutely think it could, because you look at the Norris and what it's going to be until one of these guys retires or gets hurt or something. Like, it's going to be Hughes and Makar, and then whoever has the crazy year,
right?
Like, whoever has oh my God, did you see what he's doing? And that's Zach Werenski this year. So I definitely think he could be a finalist. And you look at Columbus. I know we don't think the most highly of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like, the roster, you look at it and go, okay, yeah, whatever. But you see Sean Monahan, the dude joins the Blue Jackets to go play with his friend.
Johnny, yeah.
And then his friend he never gets to play with for this team. And he's at a point a game. He's at 41 points in 41 really games. He's been great. Columbus, okay, they start the year. They're better than you expect. Cool. Nice story. Last 10 games, 7-2-1. They've won 4 in a row. They're not just kind of fading off. At least they haven't yet. And they're past the halfway point. They're at 43 games. Tonight's 44 for them. By points, they are in the second wild card spot. By points percentage, they're in the second wild card spot. Now listen, the entire East is got the same record. They could basically play exactly the same, and another team could easily surpass them.
Yeah.
But this is pretty freaking cool. One, obviously, the Gaudreau story, that's dope. Doing it for that reason, very, very cool. Two, it's one of those teams that kind of expected to be below the Flyers in the standings. And if the Flyers are going to kind of keep playing at the pace they are, well, that really helps the draft positioning.
They were absolutely a team that I had in my head as they were going to get a top 5 pick. Look, they're playing for their fallen teammate, and that's an amazing story. And you know what? Maybe that can carry them the entire year. You never know. Stranger things have happened, and that would be a really, really cool story. But you're right. This is a team that on paper you would think is probably going to end up near the bottom. Even if they drop off over the next couple months, they might not be a top 5 pick.
They've already backed these points.
Yeah, they've gotten these wins.
They're there.
Can't take them away at this point.
If they were to just go 500, it's yeah, man, they're kind of where the Flyers, because that's what I've been seeing. They're the Flyers of
last year.
They're last year's Flyers this year.
I don't hate that comparison at all. It's a good comparison.
And circumstances way different,
sure,
but just the overachieving, hey, look where they are in the standings. That's pushing some other teams down.
And then instead of them, they're an interesting, they're better than we thought, but they still stink. And then as the year progresses, rather than they fall off, they get better.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened to the Flyers last year.
It is. And then you're in March, all right, maybe it's not going so well, but again, we've banked those points.
Exactly.
It's not as if we have to play at 100-point pace to make it now.
Yeah, they might fall off and not make the playoffs, but they're still going to finish with a point total in the 80s.
So they have been, it's just been cool to see happen for the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's hard not to root for a team that went through that and now is kind of putting the pieces together. And even without the Gaudreau stuff, this organization has been a freaking mess for a few years now. And
it was last year with the Babcock
They
stuff.
fired their coach a week before or the day before training camp opened. And like, listen, Mike Babcock, Johnny Gaudreau, these are not comparable stories, but these are things that sink a team.
Right.
And it's gone the other way. So we'll see how it goes for the Flyers tonight. Flyers looking for their third straight win for the first time since November. We'll see if they can get it done. We'll be back with post-game. Make sure you're following us right here on the YouTube page. Hit that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. Post-game will go live as soon as this thing goes final. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. It's where I do all my in-game tweeting. I got told today I'm doing a good job. I don't know how that's possible, but sure, follow us on Twitter and follow the podcast as well, wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. All right, that's it for us. My name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. Until postgame, let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.